Hello and welcome to the Mum's Guide to Money. In this series of 30 days of 30 tips, I think we're up to tip number 14, so just under halfway. And today's topic is, when should maternity leave start? So you're in the right place. So if you're thinking about having a baby, perhaps you're not quite sure about whether you can afford one, you're not sure on how much maternity leave you might get. All of the topics I cover are relevant for you, all really useful and really relevant, whether you're expecting or not. You might already be expecting, and if you are, congratulations. It's all very confusing, I know. All of the HR policies and things at work are all written in quite legal speak, can be difficult to understand. So I'll try and break all of the information down for you. So each of these videos has got to sort of try and cover one topic and hopefully get some of your questions answered. Now, you might already be on maternity leave and it's all a bit of a shock. You haven't quite got a plan. You're not quite sure, what to do next because you're going to run out of money, but you're just not quite sure when. So again, all of these things are relevant for you. So what are we covering today? So when should maternity leave start? It's one of the toughest questions that you have to answer as you're preparing for maternity leave. So I'm Charlene Smith. I'm the author of The Mum's Guide to Money, which is a book here. So you can get it in paperback or Kindle. And it started out life as a blog, actually. So last summer, I started to write a blog and it's sort of turned into a book over the last sort of 12, 18 months. And it's all about how to financially plan and prepare for maternity leave. Because let's face it, maternity leave is pretty scary on many fronts. One, not least of all when it comes to money, because you don't actually have a lot of it. If you're used to a fairly decent salary, then statutory maternity pay is significantly less. It takes a bit of a while to adjust to it. So when should maternity leave start? So there's some rules around it, as there is with all of this stuff. So the law that covers it, provides a formal set of guidance as to when it should start, when it can start. And also remember, with maternity leave, you're entitled to it if you're employed just for one day. That's all you need. So if someone says to you, "Oh, we don't pay maternity," doesn't mean that you don't qualify. They have to pay it if you're an employee. So maternity leave starts on a date picked by you within those 11 weeks before your due date. So my advice is not to get carried away and select for it to start too early, because as soon as your maternity leave starts, your maternity pay has to start, and the sooner it starts, the sooner it's going to be over. And if you've still got a while to wait for the baby to come, you could be forced back to work before you're ready. If your baby's born early, obviously maternity leave has to start on that day. If it's late, it still has to start on your due date. So the due date is the latest date that it can start. So when does maternity pay start? So maternity pay starts when maternity leave starts. And how long is maternity leave? So maternity leave runs for a maximum of 52 weeks. So there are typically timeframes either side of that where you might tack on your annual leave or some unpaid leave to make the whole period that you're away from work longer. But the official time that's called maternity leave is for exactly 52 weeks. So how long is maternity pay? So remember, they're not the same thing. So maternity pay, if you're getting statutory, is for a maximum of 39 weeks. So you don't have to be a maths genius to figure out that there's 13 weeks when you're not going to be getting any pay. So it's quite a challenge. So how do I make sure all of this stuff gets sorted properly at work? So always write to your payroll or your HR team or the company owner or whoever you know best, who deals with the payroll and who looks after the employees from a HR point of view. I've worked in lots of big organisations, so it's very different, obviously, to working in a small one. At the end of the day, if you work in a tiny company, speak to the owner. Put it all in writing, make sure you've got yourself covered and they're acknowledging the information when you send it in, not just verbally, not just on a text. Make sure they put it in an email or a letter so you know where you stand. Now, one of the things I like to talk about is the maternity pay gap. Now, it's not a very nice topic to talk about. So as you can see here, so maternity pay runs sort of for 39 weeks. So you've got 6 weeks at almost full pay, depending on what your company policy is. It has to be at least 90% of your earnings. And then you've got 33 weeks at £151 for this financial year. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but remember, you don't have quite all the same expenses as going to work, but obviously you still have to live. And one thing people don't realise is that if you're having 52 weeks away from work, you've got 13 weeks of no maternity pay because it stops after 39 weeks. So I hope that's been useful. This is one of the many tips I cover in my book, and I cover lots of things around how you can save money for maternity leave, which is really important to fill that maternity pay gap. So your income and your expenses are not going to be, your income's probably not going to be sufficient enough to cover your expenses during maternity leave. So my book's all about how to kind of get your budget sorted, how to get all of your financials down on paper, get a savings plan together, figure out how much you need to save, figure out how long you can afford to have off, and many, many other questions. So in addition to that, once you've bought the book, hop back over to my website and download the free stuff. So they're really useful bits of information that you can use alongside my book. So book, obviously, paperback, and then come to the website and you can download these 2 free things. First one is a planner. So each chapter of the book has a each chapter of the book has a list of things to do at the end of it based on whatever the topic is. And in the planner, there's space for you to scribble and tick things off and make notes. I've got a copy of the planner here. And if I just pick an example. So I've printed mine out because it's easier for me to demo it to you. But you can leave it digital, just download your own copy and take it away. So chapter 1 is all about you going away and figuring out what your entitlements are. So activity number 1, do you qualify for maternity leave? Very simple. So go away, figure out, do you meet the criteria for maternity leave? Okay, step 2, how much maternity pay are you entitled to? So all well and good, you've got maternity leave, but are you going to get maternity pay during that time? And that's just some of the activities it steps you through. At the end of the chapter in the planner, and it's also in the book, very handy checklist. So as you do each thing, tick it off, job done, and you're starting to get that kind of feeling that you're organised. You're starting to understand what you're headed towards from a financial perspective. The second thing that's contained on the website, and I'll do a separate video on it, is a budget calculator. So again, download it, take it away. I don't save any information. It's all yours to keep. But this is where you can put all of your budget information into the calculator, and it will help you figure out sort of where your sort of low months are going to be from a money point of view, where you might need to top things up with savings, how much you need to save, how you're going to save it, and so on. This here is just a list of all the different topics that we cover in the planner, but also in the book. So pregnancy and maternity leave rules, how long should I take for maternity leave, maximising your maternity leave income, minimising your maternity leave expenses, saving money for maternity leave, buying things for your baby, so how to budget, how to get it all reasonably priced, going back to work after you've had a baby, what your childcare options are, how to maintain a normal life, and then my last one, which is one of my favourites, is sort of all the things you need to do in that last few months to get yourself organised. So I hope that's been useful. Like I said, this is tip 14 in a series of 30, so come back each day for new videos that I'm posting. In the meantime, you can find me on all the normal social media, or have a nose around my website, or hop over to Amazon and buy my book. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you tomorrow.